There we go. Now we're recording. Martin Wegeland, thank you so much for hanging out, saying hi.
Thank you.
Oh, hell. You were just about to tell me, and I stopped you so that I could hit record, about how you guys are in the studio. Let's talk about you being in the studio. What are you doing in the studio right now?
We're doing recordings for two smaller projects that's going to be released probably later this year. I'm not really sure how much is announced about it, but I can talk about one of the things. It's we're doing an AC/DC cover for one of the redo albums that is coming out.
Oh, like sure, okay.
Yeah, and we took well, I hope they have.
Have they announced that?
Sorry, Jad and Mike, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's yeah, and I'm not really sure if that's such a big secret anyway. Otherwise, I'll have Jad on the phone. But
yes, Jad might call. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're doing that, and we also took the time to record some songs for a split EP that we're doing later this year.
Oh, who are you? Can you say who you're doing a split with? No.
It's not announced, so I'll just leave it at that. But I think it's a band that you will like.
Oh.
And most people will like, of course. But
no, I only care about me liking it, so that's fine.
Yeah, then you should be happy. Yeah.
All right, that's good. That's good. What studio are you in? Are you back?
We're in Welfare Studios, the same studio
Same
that
you did the album.
Seats in. Yeah.
Is
got along really good with those guys, and it's good to get away from Stockholm for a while. This is on the west coast in Gothenburg, so we took like a 5-hour drive and just to focus for a few days, really.
That's kind of nice. Nice escape. Yeah, Welfare Sounds. That's Kyle and Per, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Kyle plays in Langfinger, and I saw he was doing something with Esben from Monolord in his studio too. He seems to get around. That's very cool. Yeah,
I think he's doing some Esben's new studio. I think he's been sort of an engineer assistant, or if he might have been engineering it. We just arrived today, so we haven't been able to talk that much.
You'll get caught up. No worries.
Yeah.
How long are you there? You were there 3 days for the album, right? It was pretty quick.
No, it's actually 4 days, but
okay.
The first was basically just setting things up. And we're actually here for the same amount of time this time, so.
So you get to do 2 songs in the same amount of time.
It's actually 4 songs. Four songs. So, but there's. If you do like a cover of an AC/DC track, there's some reverence that needs to be shown to the track also.
Of course.
And even though it's like one of the most dumbest things you could do, to sort of try to, if there's no way to improve anything, you just have to do your take on it, but you still have to pay some homage to the original. So we're going to spend some time with that, and just try to have a relaxed time in the studio.
Nice. Let's talk about Seeds for a little bit, since you're sort of back in the space. It's your 3rd record. It's congratulations. It's very heavy. But
thank you.
I wanted to talk to you about sort of the title Seeds first, and see where you were coming from. It obviously, the evokes growth and sort of the potential of a thing. What were you going for in sort of picking that one word?
I think we wanted it to have a sort of slightly positive connotation. And also that this was basically, I think we saw the different songs as like, most of the songs spawn out of one idea, that we wanted to do a song that had this part or about this, or it could be like we want to use this kind of riff structure and build a song around that, or we want to do a song that is based around the tremolo. So it sort of became like seeds for, this might sound a bit pretentious, but for us it was like seeds that were planted that became the album. And also since it has this theme of like starting anew and getting past this old fucking shit that we're sort of just pedaling around in right now. So I know that there were some, I think Jad wanted us to get a more like crushing title, like Flood or something like that again. But I still think we were pretty set on giving the album that title because it sort of fits with both the process and the lyrical contents.
And I think I think the album's crushingness kind of speaks for itself in the songs as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
yes.
yeah, but at the same time, something I wanted to ask about is kind of if there was something different you wanted to do coming off of Flood, because I'm hearing in the songs also this, not only this hopefulness, but kind of this spaciousness of sound as well. It seems like there's a little bit more of the psychedelic aspects, a little bit of sort of playing around in different parts where things go. Can you talk about that a little bit from point of view of songwriting?
I don't think it's anywhere near a react. It's not a reaction to Flood or the End of Electricity. This is basically just where we're at right now. And I guess most of the riffs could have been on either of those albums. But as far as like the soundscape, we wanted to do something that was slightly bigger and had more like headroom, detail also, because I think that for me, Martin is such a good guitarist, and I really think that he should actually be able to show that in the aspect that he's got more like clarity to his guitars also, because he can do the heavy riffs, but there's a lot more to him. So I think the guitar structures sort of also demanded that we do something that was a little bit more vibey in a way, or I'm not really sure how to describe it, but more open.
Vibey works. I mean, a little more atmospheric, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean,
Flood was a really dense album. It was just like this super dense, super heavy album, which is cool. But we just sort of felt that, okay, for the next one, we want to give it a bit more like an open landscape.
Mm-hmm. And listening back to it now, how do you feel about sort of the results that came from that effort?
From Seeds, you mean?
And listening back to Seeds.
I think we got there. I'm not really sure if it turned out exactly the way we intended it to be, but most things don't. You can go in with a idea of wanting to achieve something, and if you come close, then you're happy. And I think we got a lot of things that we may have not thought about that just came in the mixing and mastering process, and that sounded really good. So we're really happy. A song like Dawn of Man, the first single. Mm-hmm. I think the guitars, there's this long break where the guitar is just crushing. It's actually only the guitar, but you can it almost sounds like there's a bass there also. I think we wanted that to be the idea was that part should be bit more spacious and thin, and then the guitars, the bass and drum would come and kick in. But instead, Carl Daniel, who mixed the album, he did this version that was just super dense with the guitars sort of covering most of the, if you would look at like the graphs of the song, it's like guitar and then some bass and drums. Mm-hmm. Really cool. So it turned out to something a bit different, but I think it turned out great, and it sort of feels like one of those songs that was really tricky just to say that we want to do something that sounds like this, because it's pretty weird in a lot of ways. Yeah.
I think it worked. I mean, I think it works though as it is, and you picked it for the first single, so obviously you're happy with the results.
Yeah,
which is good.
It's also the shortest song on the album, so that's usually one of the reasons.
And I like a 9-minute single. Come on.
Yeah.
You like 9-minute Noise Onslaught Audio Dome.
The next single is 9 minutes.
There you go.
Be fine. Yeah.
Is it Audio Dome or the title track?
No, it's a title track. Yeah.
Fair.
I think it had a premiere yesterday through Metal Injection or something, and it's going to be on the streaming platforms this Friday.
Wow. Well, all right, very cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. Can you let's talk to me about the artwork and the packaging, because I mean both Flood and End of Electricity both had this sort of very striking art, and it seems like you guys have pushed that even further into different sort of 3D presentation with Seeds and the box set limited edition massive thing, art book and everything. Can you talk about what that sort of means to you as a band and how it came about?
Well, I think the presentation is important, and we're lucky enough to work with a guy called Björn Atteldax, who's done, he did End of Electricity and he did Flood, and he's also done Seeds. And we give him pretty much free hands to do whatever he wants to do. And early on he said that I'm not sure I'm going to draw anything this time. I'm going to build shit. And we're like, okay, we're going to build shit. And it's going to be in 3D. And we're like, okay, it's going to be
okay.
And
it's very easygoing. That's a very easygoing perspective.
Yeah, I think initially the idea was that the gatefold was to be one of those old pop-up things, you know, like children's books. But that became a challenge with the production. So we just stuck with the 3D. But I mean, he actually built this big diorama from animals that he sort of assembled from different skull parts and like skeleton parts. And so he put it up in his studio, and we did a photo shoot there, shot with 3D camera. So it's a pretty complicated process. And I think it turned out great, because he's not really into, I mean, he doesn't listen to heavy music in that sense. He likes pretty weird music. More like, he likes Gigi Allin's country songs, and likes like super heavy dub reggae. But he knows the sort of imagery that is usually used in this kind of the fields that we dabble in. And he sort of starts off there, and then he does something completely strange with it. I mean, just if you look at the color settings from the previous two albums, it's a lot of like pink and purple, and not the colors you usually connect with this kind of music. So there's something slightly disturbing and weird with everything he does, and I just love it. And he's a good friend, so it's always super fun to work with him. And we sort of, it's in a way it's a gamble, because he does something and then he just presents it and this is how it is.
Right.
But as long as it turns out this cool, we're just happy with it.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, I guess over time you build that trust, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the same thing that would happen going back to a studio, is you have that trust that it's going to turn out well in the end. I wanted to ask about Dawn of Man, putting it out there first, but you already talked about that. So let's talk about the title track. At what point did you know that was going to open the record?
We knew that from pretty early on. Basically, the entire album sequence was set way before we started recording. And it was either this or the second song called Perpetuator that was supposed to start the album. Those were the obvious openers. And then the rest of the album just had to play the way it was. But I'm sorry, what was the question again?
No, when did you know it would open? And I get what about it made it the opener?
Because it's pretty direct. It's got a sort of this pretty melodic opening with the guitars, and that we may have not been doing in the past, but we feel that sort of represents how this album flows also a bit. That there's more like, there are moments of clarity in this also. It's not all dense, just pummeling. There's more to it also. And then there is a bit of pummeling and some other parts. And I think Jad also he really wanted that one to open. So that sort of became the final vote, final say in it.
How
And we
much? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
with long songs also.
What's that?
We really like to have a long song as the opener. We've always had that, and I think we're going to continue with that.
I think it works well into Perpetuator too, as you mentioned. Kind of leads you. It kind of immediately puts you in sort of the space you guys are creating, and then kind of leads you into the rest of the record after that. I think that works very well. I know Sweden, last year didn't really lock down the same way a lot of other places did. What was it like for you guys putting this material together during a global pandemic?
Yeah, that's kind of strange. I mean, all of these different strategies, we had a really open strategy over here in Scandinavia, or in Sweden particularly, and how that worked out, I don't know, but able to rehearse. We got a pretty big practice space, so we can sort of keep the distance within. We can sit like meters apart and still manage to get music going. And it's the same thing with the studio, really. Plus, during the summer last year, the pandemic was pretty low. It was I think people sort of felt it was fading away, and then came the fall.
Right.
But,
so much for that. But
yeah, so much for that.
Yeah.
I think it's this time around in the studio, it's much worse actually. We still got the alcohol gel and everything, and we keep the distance. But both the studio heads have had COVID already, and the restrictions are way harder now in Sweden than they were 1 year ago.
That's interesting. I over here, things are starting to open up, and people are like, "No, don't open up yet." But things are opening up anyway because, and the vaccine rollout and all that. So it's amazing how different the responses have been. I
think the Swedish idea from the beginning was that the costs of shutting down would be even worse in the long term,
right.
Like depression and like people going out of work. And so when they thought it was possible to control it, they went for that strategy. And then it's sort of difficult to just turn away from that.
Right.
But I think we're looking, there's talk about shutting down like malls and whatever right now, or at least strictly limiting how many people can go there, because those have been open all throughout this, and the schools have been open, especially for younger kids, which has, for me, who has 2 kids, been like great. That much of it, like
yes,
spread there either. So I think that might be the option over here.
I understand that as well. We were doing virtual preschool for a while.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah,
he's back at school now. We're much relieved.
Yeah, and I guess he's happy with it also.
Yes. That's it. He doesn't have to. Oh my God, I could go on about virtual preschool. I won't. Let's talk about Audiodome, kind of the other end of that long song sandwich of the album. How much of that sort of it kind of moves into this wash of noise? How much of that came together in the studio? How much was Carl Daniel mixing? And I wanted to talk to you about that too, because Carl Daniel's a bit of a genius. But how did that end up where it is?
I think it's recorded just as we rehearsed it. There's not a lot of it's basically a live take. Additions, but very little additions. I'm not really sure if there's any added guitars. It could be just a plain live take. And of course, Carl Daniel worked with the like spacey part of that tune, and he made it sort of shimmer in a way that we were super happy with. But apart from that, it's pretty much, we were set that was exactly what it was going to sound like. So I'm just happy. We kind of told him that you can do you can go crazy with this part. You can just make it as atmospheric, and like it should be like this rocket launch, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we wanted to work with him was that we knew that he could do those things also. I mean, he did. It's not so much. We actually talked to him about working together already before Flood was released, but it didn't work out then. But sort of what we did actually during the pandemic in the beginning at this very time last year, was that we spoke to a bunch of guys who were like mixing, studio heads and mixers.
Mm-hmm.
Felt that, okay, we have this song that is not being released yet. That's for the Planet of Doom film that
Mm-hmm.
is coming out eventually, hopefully.
Yeah.
And we had a mix for that, and we had but we sent the raw files to a bunch of different mixers, just as we felt, okay, they could use the work, and we can sort of try a couple of guys out. And we got it was a lot of good takes on the track, but what he did was just blew our minds. And then we realized, okay, we have to work with him for this one. We really have to do that. So we really knew that he was the one who could sort of take it to that notch. And also, especially when we work with in a studio like Welfare Studios, who do this it's really super organic. I'm sitting on the upper floor right now, but you can't really see it's an office, and down below it's just like, it looks like behind you everything is just wood, and there's it's like a museum of vintage amps and everything, and it's a really great room. And so those things combined should turn out to something good, we thought, and yeah, in our minds it did.
Yeah, and then you get the album, so
Yeah.
good on you. Yeah. We're starting to see tours booked for fall. Have you guys thought about sort of getting out again?
Oh yeah, I mean, we don't have anything. We have like some preliminary bookings. I think the first thing is in October.
Okay.
And we have festivals booked for last year, and I'm not really sure if they will pan out this year. But yeah, when you talk to people, basically what they do is they try to schedule things for the spring of 22 right now, which is kind of depressing, but yeah, we just have to roll with it. There's people who are far worse off than we are.
I mean, yeah, I'm starting to see the fall. I'm starting things opening up. I saw, some tour dates in Denmark for September, and that seemed a little early to me, but like, as you say, October, November seems a little, I don't know.
I think the UK is different because UK has actually set a date.
Yes. Yes.
Which is kind of strange, but yeah, good for them.
Right. The latest in a series of questionable decisions. But
yeah.
That's fine. What else is kind of the plan going up to that return? You're doing this split, which with some unknown party who is cool, and doing the AC/DC tribute. What else do you guys have in the works? Is there anything else going on other than the album release?
Yeah, I think we're gonna try to learn the songs to learn the songs again and be able to perform them somehow. But otherwise, there's not really much to do. I think there's been talk of doing some kind of streaming event, and yeah, we'll try to do that because we need to sort of perform the tracks somehow.
Right.
This side of the summer also, we feel, if not for anyone else, then for ourselves at least. So we're looking if we can do something that is slightly more than just putting up a camera in the rehearsal space. But we'll see. And also, I mean, we would be open to do, like, if there's shows starting for like seated or 30 capacity, we'd do those shows also, just to get out and sort of get active again.
Right, do something. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's, if you ask any band, it's pretty much the same. No one really knows when this takes off, and since our lives don't depend on touring, we're still, it's of course, it's sad, and we really want to be out there playing, but it's not life or death for us.
Right. Not your job necessarily.
No, it's not our job.
Right. You mentioned learning to play the songs live. Of course, none of the songs was recording them. But is it different? Yeah. Is it, well, that's the thing. Is that different for you from, say, how it was with Flood? Where did you play those songs live before you recorded them? Was there any sort of working on the stage that could have been done here before you hit the studio?
No, I don't think we've ever played a song before it was recorded. We played songs before they were released, but not before they were recorded. No, it's not a big difference at all. I mean, these songs on Seeds were actually rehearsed quite a bit more than the songs for Flood were when we entered the studio back then. Basically because we had the time to do it with the pandemic and all. I think, the songs are pretty easy to play for the most part, at least for me. And we sort of, I just think we need to sort of play them for a couple of weeks, and it's going to be back again. Mm-hmm. But there's no big transformation or anything. It's just like picking up where we left off last summer, because we haven't really played those songs since we recorded them, because there's been no reason to.
Right, exactly, yeah. Right, for what? Right.
Yeah.
Bizarre. And yet at the same time, the album has this hopeful note. How was that a conscious thing? Was as you were putting the songs together, were you like, okay, this is, we're not just gonna be downer, I feel like a lot of the records that are coming across right now are that, like, where it's just like, okay, there's a global pandemic, the world is ending, here's a song about it. And
that's exactly what we did not want to do.
Yes, exactly. How conscious was that decision though, as the material?
Super conscious.
Yeah,
it was super conscious. I mean, and most of them, I think 75% of the album was written before COVID hit, before I'd even heard of it, basically. And already then we decided that this has to have some sort of like rebuilding, something, a slightly more positive note to it. And that was pretty much based on the world as it was before COVID. And COVID didn't, improve that much, but
right.
You know what I'm talking about. I mean, anywhere you look, it's not looking good.
Right. Right. It's not an easy time to strike a positive note.
No, and it's also feels like doing this like fictional post-apocalyptic themes is like, well, it's not that fictional anymore. I mean, people actually act towards each other like it's been, like they're in a post-apocalyptic landscape. So we wanted to sort of, just to keep ourselves sane, do something that has a more like upbuilding notes to it. And it also, when the pandemic struck, it sort of became even more obvious that, okay, we really need to stick to this idea rather than do this sort of inwards look at how do we feel in the quarantines or whatever. And because there's going to be other people who do that, and they're going to do it way better than we do. So we'll stick to keeping it heavy and sort of just, with a slight positive atmosphere. It's not a super jolly album, but there's hints of some kind of light at least.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think leading off with Seeds and sort of putting that forward helps that a lot, because again, Seeds is growth, is something new. Shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. The sort of, I guess in the sort of context that the album is arriving, I think doing that allows you a more individual perspective, right? I mean, as you say, everyone is going to be doing this thing. I think you found a way to sort of do that. At the same time, and it's something you sort of hinted at. It's a little bit of escape for you guys too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is sort of, you can devote yourself to something that's even partially positive in a time when that's very hard to come by.
I mean, as much as we talk about the lyrical theme, it's basically the lyrics are not the key thing for us. It's basically just something that goes along with how the music plays out. And when we're talking about adding a positive note, it's basically more about the music itself, that it has to be sort of, there's some like melody lines that are a bit sentimental and sort of almost bittersweet in a way, at least to us. And also, we worked so much harder on this album than we've ever done before, with just getting like the groove going, and that all of the songs should have a like constant beat that you feel in your back and your neck, and it should be sort of different from song to song. It shouldn't just be the same one beat throughout the album. So that's also basically, because that's when you feel really good. That's when we feel really good, is when you lock in, get the groove going.
Yep.
So
the nod.
That's basically the positive. Yeah, the nod. That's basically what the Audio Dome thing is about also. That sort of shaving everything that is bad and dumb and just distracting away, and to the feeling that you actually get when you're at a good show. If you're standing in the church at Roadburn, for instance, and you just feel that like the bass notes wash over you and you become sort of one with everything. That's almost the emotion that we're sort of trying to celebrate there. That I mean, in that sense, an Audio Dome could actually at this time and age be a dive bar with a stage. So it's not the dome itself, it's more about what it sort of conveys.
Right. It's that sort of consuming sound where everything's sort of I miss that.
Yeah, we do.
We all
do.
Everybody kind of misses that. Yeah, man, talking about becoming one with everything and shit. All right.
I'm sorry if I make you sad now.
No, man, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's a good sad. It's productive sad.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna let you go at this point. I don't want to keep you. I know you're studioing, so
it's fine.
Let me pause the record, but I will say thank you again for checking in and talking about seeds and all this, and congratulations on the record, because it sounds like you wanted to do something really kind of specific with the sound, and then you did it. So that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you, JJ. That's really great.
Hang on just a second.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, hell. Hang on just a second.